I found a hidden folder on my husband's laptop, named after me. But when I opened it, every photo was of someone else. Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I thought I knew my husband. I thought I knew every scar on his body, every worry that kept him awake at night, every dream he whispered into the darkness of our bedroom. I thought our marriage was built on something real, something solid. I thought the man who kissed my forehead every morning before leaving for work was incapable of the kind of deception that shatters lives. I was wrong. But let me start from the beginning, because that's where all the best lies are planted, isn't it? In the beginning, when everything feels true. We met 7 years ago at a coffee shop in downtown Portland. I know how cliché that sounds. How every love story these days seems to begin in some hipster cafe with overpriced lattes and exposed brick walls. But that's exactly what happened. I was working on my laptop, struggling with a presentation for a client, and my coffee had gone cold. He was sitting 2 tables away, reading a book I'd loved in college, and when our eyes met, he smiled. That smile. God, that smile could have convinced me of anything. His name was Daniel. He introduced himself after I'd caught him glancing at me for the 3rd time, and we talked for 2 hours straight. He was a software developer, thoughtful and quiet, with these intense brown eyes that made you feel like you were the only person in the world when he looked at you. He listened in a way that felt rare, like he was genuinely interested in every word that came out of my mouth. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony by the coast. It was just us, our families, and the sound of waves crashing against the rocks. He cried when I walked down the aisle, and I remember thinking that this was what forever looked like. The years that followed were good. Not perfect, because nothing ever is. But good. Real. We fell into a rhythm that felt natural. He'd wake up before me, make coffee, and leave mine on the nightstand with a note. Sometimes it was just a heart. Sometimes a terrible joke. Once it was a drawing of our cat that looked more like a deranged potato. I loved every single one. We worked from home most days. Him in the spare room that doubled as his office, me at the kitchen table surrounded by design mock-ups and color swatches. In the evenings, we'd cook together, arguing playfully about whether garlic belonged in everything or just most things. He insisted on too much garlic. I always won. We had our routines. Friday nights were for trying new restaurants or ordering takeout and watching terrible reality TV. Sundays were for sleeping in late, making elaborate breakfasts, and taking long walks through the neighborhood. We knew each other's passwords, shared a calendar, planned vacations months in advance. He knew I couldn't sleep without the window cracked open, even in winter. I knew he needed exactly 10 minutes of silence when he first woke up, or he'd be grumpy all day. Trust wasn't something we talked about. It was just there, like oxygen. We breathed it in without thinking. I loved him completely. I thought he loved me the same way. The changes started small, so small I barely noticed them at first. It's like that, isn't it? Betrayal doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on your door and introduce itself. It creeps in through the cracks, disguised as stress or distraction or bad moods. About 4 months ago, Daniel started spending more time in his office. He'd always been dedicated to his work, but this was different. He'd disappear right after dinner, claiming he had a deadline or a bug to fix. The door would close and I'd hear the click of the lock. That lock. We'd never locked doors in our house. Not the bedroom, not the bathroom, not his office. It was a small thing, but it bothered me. When I asked about it, he said he was on video calls and didn't want me accidentally walking in. It made sense. I let it go. He became protective of his laptop in a way he'd never been before. He used to leave it open on the couch, the kitchen counter, anywhere. Now it was always with him, or closed, or angled away from me. Once I walked up behind him while he was working, just to ask if he wanted tea, and he slammed the screen down so fast I actually jumped. "Sorry," he said, rubbing his face. "You startled me. I'm just stressed with this project." "What project?" I asked, because I didn't remember him mentioning anything particularly stressful. "Just work stuff. It's boring. You wouldn't be interested." He used to tell me everything about his work. Every frustration with his boss, every small victory, every stupid meeting that could have been an email. Now it was just work stuff. The notes by my coffee stopped. The spontaneous kisses when he passed me in the hallway became less frequent. He stopped initiating sex, and when I did, he was distant. Like his body was there, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. Afterward, he'd turn away quickly, mumble something about being tired, and I'd lie there in the dark wondering what I'd done wrong. I asked him if something was bothering him. He said no, he was just busy. I asked if he was happy. He said, of course, why would I even ask that? I asked if we were okay. He looked at me like I was being paranoid and told me I was overthinking things. So I stopped asking. I told myself I was being insecure, that every marriage went through phases, that stress did strange things to people. I told myself to be patient, to give him space, to trust that whatever this was would pass. I trusted him. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You trust them. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything fell apart. Such an ordinary day to mark the end of your life as you know it. Daniel had left his laptop on the kitchen table, which was unusual. He'd gone out for a run, something he'd started doing recently, another new habit I'd written off as him trying to manage stress. I wasn't snooping. I want to be clear about that, even though it probably doesn't matter now. I needed to check something on my email, and my own laptop was upstairs charging. I opened his laptop, and it was already unlocked, the screen still glowing. He must have left in a hurry and forgot to close it. The browser had several tabs open, nothing interesting, just Stack Overflow and GitHub. But there was a folder open on his desktop, and something about it caught my eye. It was labeled Sarah. That's my name. My heart did this strange little flutter, the kind you get on Christmas morning when you're a kid and you see a present with your name on it. I thought it was sweet. I thought maybe he'd been planning something for me. A surprise. Maybe our anniversary that was coming up in a few months. Maybe that's why he'd been so secretive. I smiled. I actually smiled as I clicked on the folder. The first photo loaded and my smile froze on my face. It wasn't me. The woman in the photo had dark hair, long and wavy, nothing like my short blonde bob. She was laughing at the camera, her head thrown back, standing in what looked like a park I didn't recognize. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women are, wearing a sundress and sunglasses, looking carefree and radiant. I stared at the photo, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe he'd mislabeled the folder. Maybe this was a coworker, a friend's sister, someone's wedding photos he was storing for them. I clicked to the next photo. Same woman. This time she was closer to the camera, smiling softly, her eyes warm and familiar in a way that made my stomach clench. The lighting was golden, sunset maybe, and she looked like she was looking at someone she loved. Next photo. She was sitting in a cafe, coffee cup in hand, caught mid-laugh. Next. She was on a hiking trail, the mountains behind her. Next. She was in someone's kitchen, cooking, her hair tied back. Next, next, next. There were dozens of them. Hundreds, maybe. I couldn't stop clicking. Each photo was like a punch to the gut, knocking the air out of my lungs. Some were clearly candid shots, taken when she wasn't looking. Others were selfies, or photos where she was posing for the camera. In several, I could see the edge of someone's hand in the frame, someone's shadow. His hand. His shadow. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. The screen swam in front of my eyes, and I realized I was crying, hot tears streaming down my face without me even noticing when they'd started. I kept scrolling. I don't know why. Some masochistic part of me needed to see every single one, needed to understand the scope of what I was looking at. There were screenshots of text conversations, the kind of messages that made my skin crawl, inside jokes, heart emojis. I miss you. Can't wait to see you again. You make me so happy. There were photos of places I didn't recognize, hotels, restaurants we'd never been to together, a beach I'd never seen, and then I saw it. The photo that made something break inside my chest, a physical snap that I swear I could feel. It was a mirror selfie. The woman, this stranger whose name I didn't know, was standing in front of a bathroom mirror. She was wearing one of Daniel's shirts. I recognized it immediately, the blue button-down I'd given him for his birthday 2 years ago. She was smiling, and underneath the photo, in the file name, it said, "Morning after." I slammed the laptop closed and stumbled backward, my chair screeching against the kitchen floor. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning, tilting on its axis. I pressed my hands against the table to steady myself, but everything felt unreal, like I was watching this happen to someone else. How long had I been staring at the screen? 5 minutes? 20? An hour? Time had lost all meaning. The front door opened. I heard Daniel's footsteps, slightly breathless from his run, calling out, "Hey babe, I'm back. Want to grab lunch somewhere?" He walked into the kitchen and I just stared at him. This man I loved. This man I'd built a life with. This stranger. "Sarah?" He looked concerned, taking in my tear-stained face, my shaking hands. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I couldn't speak. My throat felt like it was closing up. I just pointed at the laptop. His eyes followed my gesture, and I watched the blood drain from his face. For a moment, neither of us moved. The silence was so heavy, it felt like it would crush me. "Sarah," he said slowly, and there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Fear. "Whatever you think you saw. Who is she?" My voice came out as a whisper, barely audible. "It's not what it looks like." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that didn't sound like anything I'd ever made before. "That's what you're going with? It's not what it looks like? Let me explain. Who is she?" I screamed, and he flinched. I'd never screamed at him before, not once in 7 years. "Who is the woman in the folder with my name on it?" He opened his mouth, closed it, ran his hands through his hair in that way he did when he was stressed. But this time, I felt no sympathy. I felt nothing but a cold, spreading numbness. "Her name is Elena," he said finally, and hearing him say another woman's name in our kitchen felt like being stabbed. We work together. It's complicated." Complicated. I repeated the word slowly, tasting the poison of it. "You have hundreds of photos of another woman saved in a folder named after your wife, and it's complicated?" "I can explain everything." "Then explain. Explain why you named it after me. That's what I don't understand. Of all the sick, twisted things, why my name?" He looked at the floor. Couldn't meet my eyes. I don't know. I thought if you ever saw it, you wouldn't open it. You'd think it was just files about you, backups or something. I thought it would be safe." Safe. He thought it would be safe. He'd used my name, my identity, as camouflage for his affair, as a hiding place for his betrayal. I felt something break inside me, something that I knew instinctively would never be whole again. "How long?" I asked. "How long has this been going on?" "Sarah, please." "How long?" 8 months, he whispered. 8 months. 8 months of lies. 8 months of him kissing me goodnight and then texting her. 8 months of him making love to me while thinking about her. 8 months of him planning a future with me while building a secret life with someone else. "Are you in love with her?" The question tore itself out of me, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. "I love you," he said, but it sounded hollow. "I love you, Sarah. This thing with Elena, it happened. I never meant for it to go this far. I never meant to hurt you." "You never meant to hurt me," I repeated, feeling hysterical laughter bubbling up in my chest. "You just accidentally fell into an 8-month affair. You just accidentally took hundreds of photos of her. You just accidentally used my name to hide her existence. It was all just one big accident. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk. A mistake is double booking dinner plans. I gestured at the laptop, at him, at the ruins of our life together. This is a choice. Hundreds of choices every single day for 8 months. He stepped toward me and I held up my hand, stopping him. Don't come near me. Sarah, please, we can work through this. We can go to counseling. I'll end it with Elena right now. You'll what? You'll stop seeing her? You'll delete the photos? You'll pretend like this never happened? I was crying again, angry tears that burned my cheeks. Do you think that's how this works? Do you think you can just erase 8 months of lies? I don't want to lose you. His voice cracked and I saw tears in his eyes. But I felt nothing. The man I loved was already gone. This was just his ghost, wearing his face. Answer me this, I said, my voice steadier now. The locked door, the late nights, the distance. Was that all for her? He nodded, barely perceptibly. The times you were at work but came home smelling different? Another nod. The times you said you were too tired for sex? He closed his eyes, a tear sliding down his cheek. I'm so sorry. The anniversary trip we canceled last year because you said you were too busy with work? His silence was answer enough. Were you with her? I pressed. That weekend I thought you were at a conference in Seattle. Were you with her? Yes. It came out as a broken whisper. That was it. That was the moment something fundamental shifted inside me. I'd been willing to entertain the possibility of forgiveness, maybe someday, after a lot of work and time. But that weekend, I'd been home alone, missing him, trusting him, while he was playing house with another woman. I want you to leave, I said calmly. Sarah, get your things and get out. Now. This is my house, too. Get out. I screamed with everything in me, and he finally understood that there was no talking his way out of this. He left 20 minutes later with a hastily packed bag. I sat on the kitchen floor, my back against the cabinet, and let myself fall apart. I cried until I had no tears left, until my head throbbed and my eyes were swollen shut. I cried for the marriage I thought I had. I cried for the man I thought I knew. I cried for the future we'd planned that would never exist. I cried for every moment of the last 8 months that had been tainted by his lies. But mostly, I cried for myself. For the woman who'd trusted so completely that she'd missed all the signs. For the woman who'd been living in a carefully constructed illusion while her husband built a separate life with someone else. For the woman whose name had been turned into a label on a folder full of another woman's face. When I finally pulled myself together enough to stand, it was dark outside. I'd lost hours sitting on that floor. My phone had been buzzing with messages from Daniel, but I couldn't bear to read them. Instead, I opened the laptop again. This time, I looked at everything with clear eyes. I read the messages. I noted the dates. I found receipts for dinners, hotel rooms, gifts I'd never received. I found plane tickets to places we'd never gone together. I found proof of a whole relationship that had been thriving in the shadows of our marriage. And I found something else. Buried in the folder, there was a document. A note he'd written but never sent, dated 3 weeks ago. I don't know what to do. I love Elena. I think I've loved her for months now. But I can't hurt Sarah. She doesn't deserve this. She's good and kind and trusts me completely, which makes this so much worse. I'm living a double life and I hate myself for it. but I can't let Elena go. When I'm with her, I feel alive in a way I haven't felt in years. Sarah and I have become routine, comfortable, safe. Elena is exciting and new and makes me feel like a different person. A better person, maybe. I know I need to make a choice. I know I can't keep doing this, but I'm terrified of losing either of them. I'm a coward. I know that. I just don't know how to stop being one. I read it 3 times, each word cutting deeper than the last. He'd been planning to choose. He just hadn't figured out which one of us he wanted more. I'd been in a competition I didn't even know existed, for a prize that used to be mine by right. That's when the full weight of it hit me. This wasn't just about an affair. This was about him actively weighing our entire relationship against something new and deciding we might not be worth keeping. This was about him turning me into the safe option, the backup plan, while he explored whether someone else could make him happier. The folder with my name wasn't just camouflage. It was symbolic. He'd taken my identity, my place in his life, and used it to store his fantasies of a life without me. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face. That smile, that happiness, the way she looked at the camera like she was looking at him. I thought about every moment of the last 8 months, recontextualizing everything. The dinner he'd been late to because of traffic. The flowers he'd brought home for no reason that I thought were sweet but were probably guilt. The way he'd pulled away when I tried to kiss him one morning, claiming he hadn't brushed his teeth yet. The weekend he'd gone to his friend's bachelor party and came back distant and quiet. How many of those moments were lies? All of them? Some of them? Did it even matter? I thought about the woman I'd been yesterday morning. The woman who'd woken up next to her husband, kissed him goodbye, and gone about her day with no idea that her entire life was built on sand. I grieved for her. She seems so naive now, so foolishly trusting. Around 3 a.m., I did something I probably shouldn't have. I searched for Elena on social media. It wasn't hard to find her. She worked at the same tech company as Daniel, and her profile was public. There she was, smiling in photo after photo, living her life, apparently unaware that she was the other woman in someone's marriage. Or maybe she knew. Maybe she didn't care. I scrolled through her posts, torturing myself with details of her life. She was 31, 4 years younger than me. She liked hiking and photography and indie music. She posted pictures of her coffee and her cat and sunset views from her apartment. She looked happy, normal, not like someone who was destroying a marriage. In one photo from 2 months ago, I could see the edge of what looked like a man's arm around her shoulder. The caption said, "Finally happy." 23 people had liked it. I wondered if any of them knew she was talking about a married man. I closed the app feeling sick. She was real. This wasn't some faceless temptation, some abstract concept. She was a real person with a real life, and Daniel had chosen to let her into our marriage, into the sacred space we'd built together. The sun rose eventually, the way it always does, indifferent to human suffering. I made coffee with shaking hands and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the laptop that had become the instrument of my life's destruction. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Daniel. I'd been ignoring them all night, but something made me open this one. "Sarah, please call me. I know you're angry and you have every right to be. I know I destroyed your trust. But please believe me when I say I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. You're my wife." I took vows. I meant them when I said them. I still mean them. I made a terrible mistake, but I want to fix this. I want to fight for us. Please give me a chance to make this right. I love you. I've always loved you. Please. I read it once, then deleted it without responding. Words were so cheap. Love. Trust. Vows. He'd already shown me what those meant to him. My best friend Melissa called around 8. I'd texted her late last night, just 3 words. Daniel cheated. Call me. I'd turned off my phone after that, but now I needed to talk to someone before I lost my mind completely. Oh my God, Sarah. Her voice was thick with concern. Are you okay? What happened? I told her everything. The folder, the photos, the 8 months, the note about choosing between us. I told her about the woman named Elena who apparently made him feel more alive than I ever had. I told her about sitting on the kitchen floor feeling like my entire life had been a lie. Melissa listened without interrupting, and when I finally finished, she said, "I'm coming over. Don't argue. I'm already in my car." She arrived 30 minutes later with coffee, donuts, and the kind of righteous fury that only a best friend can muster. She held me while I cried again, and then she sat me down and made me eat a donut even though I protested I couldn't stomach anything. "You need to think practically," she said gently. "I know that's the last thing you want to do right now, but you need to. Do you want to divorce him?" The word felt too big, too final. I don't know. I don't know anything right now." "That's okay. You don't have to decide today. But you need to protect yourself. Talk to a lawyer. Get your finances in order. Make copies of everything on that laptop. Those photos, those messages, all of it. You need evidence." "Evidence for what?" "For whatever comes next. Sarah, he cheated for 8 months. He lied to you every single day. He gaslit you when you asked if something was wrong. You need to be prepared for the possibility that this gets ugly." I nodded numbly. She was right. I knew she was right. But the idea of lawyers and evidence and divorce felt like admitting it was really over, and I wasn't ready for that yet. "What about her?" I asked. "Elena. Does she know he's married?" "I don't know, honey. Does it matter?" "Yes. No, I don't know." I pressed my palms against my eyes. If she knows, then she's as guilty as he is. If she doesn't know, then she's a victim too. Either way, I hate her. Is that wrong? I hate someone I've never met. You're allowed to feel however you feel right now. There are no rules for this. Daniel came back 2 days later. I'd been staying with Melissa, unable to bear being in our house, surrounded by all the memories that now felt corrupted. He texted asking if we could talk, and against Melissa's advice, I agreed to meet him. We sat across from each other at a coffee shop, the irony of the location not lost on me. This is where we'd met. This is where it had all begun. Now it felt like a place where things would end. He looked terrible. Hollow-eyed and unshaven, wearing the same clothes he'd left in 2 days ago. Good, I thought savagely. I hoped he hadn't slept. I hoped he was suffering even a fraction of what I was going through. "Thank you for meeting me," he said quietly. I didn't respond. I just waited. I ended it with Elena. I told her we were done, that I was going to do everything in my power to save my marriage. She was upset, but it's over. Completely over. "Congratulations," I said flatly. "You ended an affair that never should have started. Do you want a medal?" He flinched. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I broke something that might be impossible to fix, but I'm asking you to try. I'm asking you to give me a chance to earn back your trust." "How?" The word came out harsh. "How exactly do you earn back trust after 8 months of lies? Do you have a plan? A timeline? Is there a handbook for how to forgive your husband for choosing someone else and only coming back because you caught him?" "That's not what happened." "Then what did happen, Daniel? Because from where I'm sitting, you were building a whole relationship with another woman while keeping me as your safety net. You were going to choose between us, weren't you? That note I found. You were trying to decide which of us you wanted more." His silence was confirmation. "Did you ever consider that maybe I should have been the one making that choice?" I continued, my voice rising. "Did it ever occur to you that I might not want to be with someone who sees me as the boring, safe option? Someone who locks doors to hide from me? Someone who uses my name as a lie?" I was confused. He said desperately, "I was having a crisis or something. Elena was new and exciting, and I got caught up in it. But she's not you. She doesn't know me like you do. She doesn't understand me. What we had, it wasn't real. It was fantasy. What we have is real. What we had was real, I corrected. What we have now is broken. You broke it. Then let me fix it. You can't fix it. I was crying now, angry tears streaming down my face. Don't you understand? Every time I look at you, I'm going to see her. Every time you're late coming home, I'm going to wonder if you're with someone else. Every time you lock a door or close your laptop, I'm going to remember that you're capable of lying to my face for 8 months. You didn't just cheat on me, Daniel. You rewired my brain. You turned me into someone suspicious and paranoid and broken. I'll do anything, he pleaded. Therapy, counseling, whatever you need. I'll give you passwords to everything. I'll quit my job so I'm not around Elena. I'll do anything to prove to you that I choose you. But you didn't choose me, I said, and saying it out loud made it real. I was chosen for you when I found out. That's not the same thing. We sat in silence for a long moment. Other people in the coffee shop were going about their lives, laughing and talking and being normal, and I hated them for it. How dare they be happy when my world was ending? What do you want me to do? Daniel finally asked, his voice broken. I want you to go back in time and not cheat on me. I want you to go back 8 months and remember your vows. I want you to go back to the moment you first looked at her and choose to look away. But we can't do any of that, can we? Sarah, I need time, I interrupted. I need space to figure out what I want. I need to not look at you for a while because every time I do, I feel like I'm going to be sick. He nodded, tears streaming down his face. Okay, whatever you need. I'm staying with Melissa for now. I'll let you know when I'm ready to talk again. If I'm ever ready. I stood up to leave and he grabbed my hand. Sarah, please, I love you. I've loved you since the day we met in this coffee shop. I know I fucked up worse than I've ever fucked up anything in my life, but please don't give up on us. Please. I looked down at his hand on mine, this hand I'd held thousands of times, and felt nothing but numbness. You gave up on us the moment you kissed her. You just didn't tell me about it. I pulled my hand away and walked out, leaving him sitting alone in the place where we'd fallen in love. The weeks that followed were the worst of my life. I moved through them like a ghost, going through the motions of living without actually feeling alive. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus on work. I existed in this strange liminal space between the life I'd had and whatever came next. I did talk to a lawyer on Melissa's insistence. She was practical and kind, explaining my options without judgment. I learned about division of assets, about grounds for divorce, about how to protect myself financially. I learned that I had rights, that I wasn't helpless, that there was a path forward even if I couldn't see it yet. I also went to therapy, because Melissa made me promise I would. My therapist, Dr. Chen, was patient with my anger and my tears and my endless circular thoughts. She didn't tell me what to do. She just helped me understand what I was feeling. Betrayal trauma, she called it. When someone you trust fundamentally violates that trust, it's not just emotional pain. It's a trauma that affects how you see the world, how you see yourself. You're grieving not just the relationship, but your sense of reality itself. That made sense. I was grieving the man I thought Daniel was. I was grieving the marriage I thought we had. I was grieving my own naivety, my willingness to trust so completely that I'd ignored every warning sign. Do you think I should have known? I asked her once. Do you think I was stupid to miss all the signs? Signs are only obvious in hindsight, she said gently. And people who love deeply often don't look for reasons not to trust. That's not stupidity. That's love. He exploited that love. That's on him, not you. I wanted to believe her, but late at night, alone in Melissa's guest room, I'd replay every moment of the last 8 months, cataloging all the times I should have questioned him, should have demanded answers, should have trusted my instincts. The locked door, the changed passwords, the distance. I'd felt it all, and I'd chosen to believe his excuses because the alternative was too painful to consider. Daniel texted me every few days. Nothing pushy, just small updates. He'd moved into an apartment. He'd started therapy. He missed me. He was sorry. Always so sorry. I rarely responded, and when I did, it was brief. Okay. I know. I need more time. One day, about a month after everything fell apart, he sent me a longer message. I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I need to tell you the truth. I saw Elena today at work. She cornered me in the parking lot. She's angry that I ended things. She thinks you manipulated me into choosing you. She doesn't understand that there was never a choice to make, that you're my wife, that I made vows to you. She made me realize how shallow what we had was. It was all surface-level attraction and excitement. It wasn't real the way we're real. I just wanted you to know. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to know more. What did she say? Was she crying? Did she try to win him back? But another part of me, the part that was slowly growing stronger, realized I didn't care. Their drama didn't matter. What mattered was figuring out who I was going to be now. 2 months after I found the folder, I finally went back to the house. I'd been avoiding it, sending Melissa to pick up clothes and essentials for me, but I couldn't hide forever. I needed to face the space where my marriage had died. It was strange walking through the door. Everything was the same. The couch where we'd watch TV, the kitchen where we'd cooked together, the bedroom where we'd slept side by side for years. But it all felt different, tainted by knowledge I couldn't unknow. I found a letter on the kitchen table, my name written on the envelope in Daniel's handwriting. I almost didn't open it. I'd had enough of his words, his apologies, his promises. But curiosity won out. Sarah, it began, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to take me back. I've done some serious thinking over these past 2 months, and I've come to understand some hard truths about myself. I was selfish. I was a coward. I was so afraid of being boring or predictable that I convinced myself the affair was about passion and connection, when really it was just my ego needing validation. I took for granted the most precious thing in my life, you. And your trust, because I was too immature to appreciate what I had. The folder with your name wasn't just about hiding Elena. It was symbolic of how I'd compartmentalized everything. I'd separated you from my guilt, as if keeping them in different mental spaces meant I wasn't really betraying you. I know now how fucked up that is. I'm not writing this to make excuses or to beg you to come back. I'm writing this because you deserve to know that I finally understand what I did to you. I destroyed something beautiful because I was too broken to recognize its value. I turned your name into a symbol of my betrayal, and I will carry that shame for the rest of my life. Whatever you decide, whether you want to try to rebuild something from these ashes or whether you want to walk away completely, I will respect it. I will sign whatever papers you want me to sign. I will move out permanently if that's what you need. I will disappear from your life if that's what would make you happy. But I want you to know that loving you was the best thing I ever did, and losing you is the worst consequence I could have imagined for my actions. You deserved better than me. You deserved honesty and loyalty and a partner who treasured you every single day. I'm sorry I couldn't be that person. I'm sorry I discovered too late what I'd thrown away. Whatever life you build next, I hope it's beautiful. I hope someone loves you the way you should have been loved all along. I hope you find happiness again, even if it's not with me. Especially if it's not with me. Daniel. I read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and set it down. There was a time when those words would have meant everything to me. A time when his acknowledgement of his mistakes would have felt like progress, like a foundation we could build on. But now, they just felt empty. Pretty words couldn't undo 8 months of lies. Self-awareness didn't erase betrayal. I walked through the house slowly, room by room, saying goodbye to the life I'd had here. In the bedroom, I ran my fingers over the books on my nightstand, the photos on the dresser. There was one of us on our wedding day, both of us laughing, so young and hopeful. I picked it up and studied it, trying to remember what that version of me had felt, what she'd believed about her future. She'd had no idea. She'd thought she was marrying her soulmate, her partner for life. She'd thought the hard parts would be things like deciding where to spend holidays or arguing over whose turn it was to do dishes. She'd never imagined this. I left the photo face down on the dresser. In his office, I saw that the laptop was gone. He'd probably taken it to his apartment. The desk was neat, impersonal, like he'd already started erasing himself from this space. I stood in the doorway, remembering all the nights I'd knocked softly, asking if he wanted tea or if he was coming to bed soon. All those times he'd been locked in here, talking to her, looking at photos of her, building a fantasy life while I waited for him on the other side of the door. The anger came then, hot and sudden. I'd been sad for so long that I'd almost forgotten how to be angry. But standing in that office, thinking about how thoroughly he'd deceived me, the rage was overwhelming. I wanted to break things. I wanted to scream and throw furniture and destroy everything in this room that he'd turned into his sanctuary of lies. But instead, I just stood there, shaking with the force of emotions I didn't know how to express. And then, slowly, the anger transformed into something else. Something clearer. Something that felt almost like relief. I didn't want this house. I didn't want these memories. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life walking through rooms haunted by the ghost of a marriage that had never been what I thought it was. I pulled out my phone and called the lawyer. The divorce took 6 months to finalize. It was relatively amicable, as divorces go. Daniel didn't fight me on anything. He gave me the house, which I immediately sold. He paid for the lawyer fees. He signed every paper without argument. It was like he was trying to atone through paperwork, as if being generous with assets could somehow balance out what he'd taken from me. I moved to a new apartment across town, a space that had never known us as a couple. I painted the walls colors I'd always wanted, but Daniel hadn't liked. I bought new furniture, new dishes, new everything. I built a life that was entirely mine. It wasn't easy. There were days when I missed him so badly it physically hurt. There were nights when I reached across the bed for someone who wasn't there. There were moments when something funny happened and I instinctively reached for my phone to text him before remembering. But there were also good days. Days when I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about him yet. Days when I laughed with friends and meant it. Days when I felt like myself again, or maybe like a new version of myself. Someone stronger and more careful with her trust, but also more aware of her own worth. Dr. Chen helped me understand that healing wasn't linear. "You're not going to wake up one day and be over it," she told me. "You're going to have good days and bad days, sometimes good hours and bad hours. That's normal. That's grief." I learned to sit with the bad feelings instead of running from them. I learned that I could be angry and sad and still move forward. I learned that betrayal didn't define me, even though it had changed me. I also learned things about myself I'd never known. I learned I was stronger than I'd thought. I learned I could survive something I'd always believed would destroy me. I learned that my identity wasn't tied to being someone's wife, that I was whole and complete on my own. About 4 months after the divorce was final, I ran into Daniel. It was completely by accident at a grocery store. We both froze, staring at each other across the produce section like deer in headlights. He looked different. Older maybe, or just tired. He'd lost weight. There was a loneliness in his eyes that might have made me sad once, but now just made me feel. "Nothing much at all." "Sarah," he said softly. "Hi." "Hi." We stood there awkwardly for a moment. What do you say to someone who used to be your entire world and is now just a stranger with familiar eyes? "How are you?" he asked, and it sounded genuine. "I'm good," I said, and realized I meant it. "I'm doing well, actually." "I'm glad. You look good. Happy." "Thank you. How are you?" "I'm managing. Therapy helps. I'm trying to figure out who I am without." He trailed off, gesturing vaguely. Without me, I mentally finished. Without us. Without the safety net of a marriage to fall back on. "I'm sorry," he said suddenly. "I know I've said it 1,000 times, but I need to say it again. I'm so sorry for what I did to you. To us? I think about it every day. I nodded. I know you are. Do you... He stopped, started again. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? I considered the question carefully. I don't know. Maybe someday. But Daniel, forgiveness isn't about you. It's not about deciding you deserve it or earning it back. It's about me letting go of the anger so it doesn't poison the rest of my life. I'm working on that. But it doesn't mean we can be friends or that I want you in my life. It just means I'm choosing not to carry the weight of hating you anymore. He looked like he might cry. That's fair. That's more than fair. What happened with Elena? I asked, surprising myself. I hadn't meant to ask, but apparently some part of me still wanted to know. It ended badly. Once the excitement of sneaking around was gone, we realized we didn't actually have anything real. She was angry that I'd chosen you, even after everything. I tried to explain that there was no choice, that I'd just finally woken up to what I'd destroyed, but she didn't want to hear it. We stopped speaking a few months ago. I waited for some feeling of satisfaction, of vindication, but there was nothing. Their failed relationship didn't undo what had happened. It didn't make me hurt any less. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said, and I meant it. Not because I forgave him or because I wanted him to be happy, but because his happiness or unhappiness didn't matter to me anymore. He was no longer the center of my universe. I hope you do too, he said quietly. I hope someone treats you the way I should have. We said goodbye, and I walked away feeling lighter than I had in months. Seeing him had proven something to me. I was over the worst of it. He was just a person now, not a wound that wouldn't heal. A year after I found the folder, I was having coffee with Melissa when she asked me the question I'd been avoiding. Do you think you'll ever be able to trust someone again? I stirred my coffee slowly, thinking, I don't know. I want to say yes, but the honest answer is I don't know. The idea of being vulnerable with someone again, of giving them the power to hurt me like that, it terrifies me. That's understandable. But Sarah, you know that not everyone is like Daniel, right? Not everyone will betray you. Intellectually, yes, but emotionally? I don't know if I believe it yet. I keep thinking about all the ways I could have protected myself. If I'd been less trusting, more suspicious, demanded passwords, checked his phone, then you would have been in a different kind of toxic relationship. Melissa interrupted gently. A relationship without trust isn't a relationship. It's surveillance. What Daniel did to you wasn't your fault. You didn't cause it by trusting him. He caused it by being untrustworthy. I know. Dr. Chen says the same thing. But knowing it and feeling it are different things. Give yourself time. You've been through hell. You're allowed to be cautious. You're allowed to take years before you're ready to date again, if that's what you need. But don't let him steal your ability to love from you. That would be letting him win. I thought about that a lot in the following weeks. Was I letting him win by being afraid? Or was I just being smart, protecting myself from future pain? I didn't have answers. But I started to think that maybe it wasn't about having answers. Maybe it was about being willing to stay open to the possibility of them. I started dating again about 14 months after the divorce. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and dinners, testing the waters of vulnerability again. It was terrifying. Every time a date reached for their phone, I wondered who they were texting. Every time they were vague about plans, I questioned if they were hiding something. But I also met kind people. People who called when they said they would. People who were honest about their feelings. People who understood when I said I needed to take things slow because I was still healing from something. Not all of them worked out, but each one taught me something. They taught me that the world was full of people who were capable of basic decency and honesty. They taught me that my fear, while valid, didn't have to control me. They taught me that I could be cautious without being closed off. There was one man, Alex, who I saw for a few months. He was patient with my trust issues, never pushing, always understanding when I needed space. One evening, we were at his apartment watching a movie when I realized his laptop was open on the coffee table, unlocked, and I hadn't even thought to look at it. The realization hit me like a wave. I'd reached a point where my first instinct wasn't suspicion, where I could be in a room with someone's unguarded technology and not feel compelled to investigate, where trust, tentative and fragile as it was, could exist again. Things didn't work out with Alex in the end. We wanted different things, but I was grateful for what he'd shown me, that I wasn't broken beyond repair, that I could still feel safe with someone. 2 years after I found the folder, I was cleaning out a closet in my apartment when I came across a box of old photos. Wedding pictures, honeymoon shots, countless snapshots of Daniel and me throughout our relationship. I'd packed them away when I moved, unable to throw them out, but not ready to look at them either. Now, sitting on my living room floor, I opened the box and went through them one by one. And something remarkable happened. I could look at them without crying. I could see the happiness in those photos and acknowledge that it had been real, even if it hadn't lasted. I could remember the good times without being destroyed by how they'd ended. These photos were proof that I had loved deeply and been loved, even if that love hadn't been enough to prevent betrayal. They were evidence of a chapter of my life that had shaped me, taught me, changed me. They were part of my story, but they weren't the whole story. They weren't even the end of the story. I kept a few, the ones that made me smile, the ones that reminded me of who I'd been before everything fell apart. The rest, I put back in the box and donated to a recycling center. Not out of anger or spite, but because I didn't need them anymore. I didn't need physical proof of that relationship. I carried the lessons with me, in the scar tissue of my heart and in the wisdom I'd earned through pain. Now, 3 years later, I can tell this story without my voice shaking. I can say my ex-husband's name without feeling like I'm going to be sick. I can acknowledge what happened to me without it defining everything I am. Do I still think about it? Yes. There are still moments when something reminds me. A couple holding hands, a familiar cologne, a laptop left open, and I feel that old hurt, that flash of remembered pain. But it's different now. It's a scar, not an open wound. It's something I survived, not something that's actively destroying me. I'm different than I was before. More cautious, yes, but also stronger. More aware of my own worth. Less willing to ignore my instincts or talk myself out of discomfort just to keep the peace. I know now that trust is a gift, not an obligation, and that I'm allowed to take that gift back if someone proves they don't deserve it. I still believe in love. That might be the most surprising thing. After everything Daniel did, after all the lies and betrayal and pain, I still believe that real, honest, faithful love exists. I've seen it in my friends' relationships, in my parents' 40-year marriage, in the small acts of devotion I witness every day. I also believe that I deserve it. That was the hardest lesson to learn, that what happened wasn't proof that I was unlovable or not enough. It was proof that Daniel was broken in ways I couldn't fix. His inability to be faithful wasn't a reflection of my worth. It was a reflection of his character. The folder with my name on it, filled with another woman's face, became a strange kind of gift in the end. It shattered my illusions, yes, but it also freed me. It freed me from a marriage that was already dying, even if I didn't know it. It freed me from the exhausting work of loving someone who had one foot out the door. It freed me to discover who I was outside of that relationship, to build a life that was authentically mine. I'm not grateful for the betrayal. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. But I am grateful for what came after, for the strength I found, for the lessons I learned, for the person I became in the aftermath. Sometimes people ask me if I would have preferred not to know, if I would have been happier living in ignorance, blissfully unaware of Daniel's affair. The answer is always no. The truth, as devastating as it was, gave me the power to choose my own path. Ignorance would have been a prison disguised as safety. I think about the woman I was 3 years ago, sitting at that kitchen table, opening a folder with her name on it and finding someone else's life inside. I wish I could go back and hold her. Tell her that she's going to survive this. That the pain won't last forever. That she's stronger than she knows. But I can't go back. None of us can. We can only move forward, carrying our scars and our lessons and our hard-won wisdom. We can only choose every single day to keep going, to keep building, to keep believing that better things are ahead. My name is Sarah. It's printed on my driver's license, my credit cards, my lease agreement. It's written on my diploma and my business cards. It belongs to me and only me. It's not a label on a folder full of lies. It's not camouflage for someone else's betrayal. It's mine. It's who I am. And I'm finally learning that that's enough. 3 years ago, I found a hidden folder on my husband's laptop, named after me, filled with photos of someone else. It broke me. It shattered my understanding of love and trust in marriage. It turned my entire world upside down. But I survived it. I'm still here. And every day I'm becoming more myself, not in spite of what happened, but maybe in some strange way because of it. That folder destroyed my marriage, but it didn't destroy me. And that, in the end, is what matters most.